B, did you raise your hand too? What do you see? Blue and black. What an amazing thing. How clearly is the blue and black? Very clear. So how many people once again see white and gold? So do we think the other people are totally nuts? Yeah. We say, what's wrong with those people seeing that color? You see white and gold, but you're going to... well, it's an interesting thing, all of this. We're talking not about dresses today, but if you looked at the sermon title, it's kind of provocative, and it says, Christ in the blue and black dress. And you're thinking, what's going on with Jesus in dresses? How does that fit together? Well, there's an illustration. It's funny how this works, but almost anything that's an important issue in spiritual things that you and I need to know, there's some kind of physical illustration God has put out there in the natural world for us to see. And this is maybe one of the interesting ones. It's an interesting case. People in here, some see blue and black, and they see blue and black. And others see white and gold, and boy, they see white and gold. That's simply what's going on. And there's no convincing one way or the other. And of course, this caused, when it first came on, a very innocent thing. Somebody trying to sell a dress on the internet, and they advertised it. I think the lady, if I recall right, advertised it as, I think, a blue, didn't she? Yeah. She advertised it as blue, and you can imagine all us white people, and I use that referring to the dress, what are you talking about? Is this false advertising? You're selling a white dress? What is this all about? And the next thing, the whole world is asking, what color is the dress? What color is the dress? And they're out there, and so the scientists have to weigh in on the whole topic, and it's actually quite interesting, and it fits even better with what we're talking about today. It comes down to genetics. You are born to see this dress one way or the other. And there's nothing you can do about that. You can't recondition your eyes. You can't, rethink or learn new things that'll make you see the dress differently. You are born to see it one way or the other. Basic physiology of it is in the back of your eye, there's the light receptor cells. And basically, it's like the old TV cables. You know, you had the RBGs, the red, blue, green, I guess it was. Well, you have these receptors in the back of your eye, rods and cones, see night, see day, and you have these in the back of your eyes. They will interpret in 3 of the primary colors. Then those fired receptors go to the brain. The brain does this calculation in the ambient light, decides what the color really is, because something at twilight doesn't look like it does in noonday sun. So it all calculates this in your head, and it comes up with a color for you. Now, the thing with this is it depends on how many of these color receptors you were born with in the back of your eye. If we were to look at here's the amazing thing, is that only 28% of the people, the population of the world, would see this as blue and black. They are a definite minority. You're a minority, Ron, sitting there, minority sitting there. Kind of an interesting thought, isn't it, as we see it so clearly. I want you to imagine yourself sitting in a big auditorium filled with people, and this becomes an important question: what color is a dress? And everybody, the majority, are yelling out, well, it's obviously white and gold. And there you sit, and you clearly see it as blue and black. What do? Do you pretend you see it white and gold? Do you have the courage to say otherwise? What color is it really anyway? Well, if we took scientific equipment and we defined it by physics, not by philosophy, because philosophy would say It is the color you see it. It is the color of the beholder. But if we used physics and we looked at the reflective wavelengths coming back and used that to define the real color, the dress is blue and black. It's blue and black. Those of us who see it in white and gold is because we, in a way, have a deficiency, if you will, in our eyes, that we cannot see what is really there. So isn't it an interesting thing? It fits in. It caused a lot of hubbub. One is because there's no relative position. There's not one of these things where you can look at it and say, well, yeah, I can see your point of view. No. It's either blue and black or it's white and gold. And that's how you see it. And so there's no relative position. However, there is an absolute answer. We can, in this case, fall back on science and use the physics of wavelengths and define colors. It is blue and black. And the capper on all of this is that it is the majority that are wrong. It's only the minority who have the true vision of things, to see the colors as they really are. And you can imagine, as we sit in a room, if we had no other explanation for how you would be persecuted for just seeing what really is. It's blue and black, but almost everybody sees it as white and gold. And so you would be tempted to be silent. You'd be tempted to even maybe pretend you see it the other way. But it is the minority who see the truth. Does that sound like anything in the spiritual world that you know of? Narrow is the road. There is one way. Any of these things that fit in? The minority who know something that the rest don't. And of course, here comes the capper of it all. That is still part of the illustration. There is nothing you can do in yourself to see it any differently. Doesn't matter. You are born to see the truth or you are not. You know, in the illustration of spiritual truth, if we take it back into the idea that people are born or not born to see spiritual truth, not a popular idea because, you know, there are lots of books out there. You know, I was just looking around. There's material that says 8 steps to spiritual awakening. You can train yourself to see in spiritual colors. 12 steps, even 21 steps to spiritual awakening. I guess the people who put out the 21 steps know a little more than the people who put out the 8 steps. I don't know. But the point is that in Christian belief, you know, it's not going to work to be spiritually awakened. You know why? Because it's not that you were spiritually asleep or I am in our natural self. Scripture says we are spiritually dead. And you cannot awaken what is dead, not in any natural form. But God can. And there's 4 gifts. And as I said in the beginning, if we were going to take in a full series and really get into it, this would be the series to do, because in these 4 gifts that God gives, in these 4 gifts is a comprehensive look at what Christianity really is. And so we start with the first one, salvation. Salvation is like the blue and black dress. Or let's just call it the internet dress. That way we don't offend anyone, the majority or the minority, right? It's our internet dress. Salvation is like this dress, really. But here's the thing. Salvation is something we tend to very quickly move over into other things and get on to other things. You know, I was reading an interesting article from a guy in Texas who is a pastor, and he says his biggest challenge being a pastor in the Bible Belt is this, that everyone assumes they're already saved. So when you start talking, you're just preaching to the choir. So, but is everyone already saved? Is it possible maybe even to be thinking you're saved and not be saved? And by the way, as we look at the issue, what is God's definition of being saved anyway? What does God have to say from that as far as from a biblical perspective? Well, one of the greatest explanations that I have found, that I have read in all my time, is in this little unassuming book written at the turn of the last century, where these 4 foundations are explained. And it's a little book called The Fourfold Gospel, and it is written by A.B. Simpson. fourfold gospel. And luckily, the minority here, the Kowalskis, caught me on a bad link. So if you went too early, you ended up on the wrong book. But now you can go to our website and download the book for free. If you've got a Kindle or whatever, that you can download it. Or you can spend a whole $5 and get it on Amazon. But it is well worth getting this book. And as we do the Wednesday night study, it's going to follow along with that book as well. It's our reference, but of course behind the Bible, something that helps us to understand. So, salvation. Okay, let's take a hard look. Whether you sit there and go, well, I know I'm saved, or whether you're saying, I'm not so sure, I haven't never bothered. What is it? What are we dealing with? It's, once again, just like this address, it starts with a perception. It starts with something you see.